The
Hello?
phone
What is
trembled in
it?
Emma's
You
hand
need to
as the
get here
familiar
now.
voice, a
Okay,
voice
I'm on my
she'd heard
way.
in 15
Hurry.
years, whispered her name. Her laughter died instantly, replaced by a cold, creeping dread that settled in her stomach like lead. How? She managed to whisper, how is this possible? If you've ever received a call that changed your life forever, hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories that remind us how quickly everything we know can change with just one moment, one decision, one unexpected call. Emma Porter had always been practical to a fault. At 32, she'd built her life on careful planning and logical decisions, a stable job as a hospital administrator, a modest but comfortable apartment in the suburbs of Boston, and relationships she could manage without risking too much of herself. Her friends often teased her for her cautious nature, especially when it came to matters of the heart. You need to live a little, Em, her best friend Jada declared one Friday night as they shared a bottle of wine in Emma's immaculately organized living room. Jada scrolled through her phone, occasionally swiping left or right on a dating app she was trying to convince Emma to download. Emma took a sip of her wine and shook her head. I like my life the way it is. Predictable. Safe. Boring, Jada corrected with a good-natured eye roll. When was the last time you did something impulsive? Something that scared you a little? Emma couldn't remember. Maybe college? Before everything happened with Michael. Before her carefully constructed walls went up. That's what I thought, Jada said, noting Emma's silence. She put down her phone and reached for her purse. I brought something for you. Emma eyed the small velvet bag Jada pulled out with suspicion. Please tell me that's not some sort of sex toy. The last gift you gave me is still in its box under my bed. Jada laughed. No, this is different. She emptied the contents into her palm, a delicate silver chain with a small pendant. It's a talisman. The woman at that little shop in Cambridge said it helps people find courage. Courage, Emma repeated, accepting the necklace with a skeptical smile. Because I'm such a coward? Because you're stuck, Jada said, suddenly serious. You've been stuck since Michael disappeared. It's been 15 years, Em. You deserve to move forward. Emma's fingers tightened around the pendant. Michael Collins had been her first love, brilliant, intense, and as impulsive as she was cautious. They'd met in their freshman year of college, two 18-year-olds with dreams bigger than the small New Hampshire town they'd grown up in. For 2 years, he'd been the center of her world, until one day, he simply vanished. No note, no warning, no goodbye. Just gone. The police investigated but found nothing suspicious. Michael had taken his passport, withdrawn cash from his account, and apparently left voluntarily. The prevailing theory was that he'd had some sort of breakdown, the pressure of being a scholarship student, perhaps, or simply the impetuous decision of a young man not ready for commitment. Whatever the reason, his disappearance had shattered Emma. And though she'd pieced herself back together in the years since, she'd done so carefully, meticulously, making sure no one could ever break her that way again. I am moving forward, Emma insisted, though the slight tremor in her voice betrayed her. I date. Sometimes. That accountant you went out with twice last year doesn't count, Jada said, pouring them both more wine. Look, I'm not saying you need to find the love of your life tomorrow. I'm saying you need to be open to possibilities. Take risks. Emma slipped the necklace over her head, if only to appease her friend. What kind of risks did you have in mind? Jada's eyes lit up with mischief. I'm so glad you asked. She reached for her phone again. There's this psychic. No, Emma interrupted firmly. Absolutely not. Hear me out. She's not one of those cheesy fortune tellers. She's the real deal. She helped my cousin Tanya find closure after her divorce. Emma sighed. Jada, you know how I feel about that stuff. It's just, people telling you what you want to hear. Maybe, Jada conceded. But maybe not. And what have you got to lose? She tapped something on her phone and held it up triumphantly. Besides, I already booked you an appointment for tomorrow. She does phone readings, you don't even have to leave your apartment. You did what? Emma reached for the phone, but Jada pulled it back with a grin. Consider it my birthday present to you. A little push out of your comfort zone. My birthday isn't for 3 months. Consider it an early gift then. Please, Em. For me? Emma wanted to refuse, but something about the hopeful look in Jada's eyes made her hesitate. Maybe it was the wine, or maybe it was the weight of the pendant against her chest, supposedly imbued with courage, but she found herself nodding reluctantly. Fine. 1 phone call with your psychic. But when she turns out to be a fraud, you owe me a real birthday present. Deal, Jada said, looking far too pleased with herself. Her name is Madame Valeria. She'll call you tomorrow at noon. The next morning, Emma woke with a mild hangover and immediate regret about agreeing to Jada's scheme. She spent the morning cleaning her already spotless apartment, trying not to watch the clock as noon approached. At precisely 12 o'clock, her phone rang. Emma stared at the unknown number for 3 rings before finally answering. Hello? Is this Emma? The voice on the other end was older, with a slight accent Emma couldn't place. Yes, this is Emma Porter. Emma, I am Madame Valeria. Your friend Jada has arranged for us to speak today. Emma sat on her couch, tucking her feet underneath her. Yes, she mentioned that. But I should tell you, I'm a bit skeptical about all this. A warm chuckle came through the line. Skepticism is healthy, my dear. I don't ask for blind faith. I only ask that you keep an open mind. Something about the woman's voice was soothing, lacking the theatrical quality Emma had expected. Against her better judgment, she felt herself relaxing slightly. All right, so how does this work? Do you need my birth date or something? No, nothing like that. I simply need you to listen. And when you're ready, to ask the one question that's truly in your heart. Emma nearly laughed. I don't have a question prepared. You don't need to prepare it. It's already there, waiting. It's what keeps you awake at night, what haunts the edges of your carefully ordered life. A chill ran down Emma's spine. This woman was good, vague enough to apply to anyone, but delivered with enough confidence to feel personal. I don't know what you're talking about, Emma said stiffly. You do, Madame Valeria countered gently. It has to do with an unfinished chapter. Someone who left without an ending. Emma's heart began to pound. Did Jada tell you about my past? Jada told me only your name, the psychic replied. But I can see the shadow that follows you. A young man with dark eyes. He left suddenly, and you've been waiting ever since, even if you won't admit it to yourself. Emma's mouth went dry. It was a lucky guess, she told herself. Or maybe Jada had mentioned Michael after all. What else do you see? She asked, unable to help herself. I see that you wear a mask of competence and control. You've built walls that keep others at a safe distance. But recently, something has shifted. You're ready for change, even if it frightens you. Emma touched the pendant at her throat unconsciously. That's pretty general, don't you think? Perhaps, Madame Valeria conceded. Let me be more specific then. You received a gift yesterday, something meant to give you courage. And in 3 days' time, you will face a choice that will require all the courage you possess. Emma froze. The pendant, she hadn't mentioned it to the psychic. How could she know? What choice? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. That, I cannot tell you. But I can tell you this, when the moment comes, trust your heart, not your fear. There was a pause, then Madame Valeria continued more gently. Now, Emma. What is the question that burns in your soul? Emma closed her eyes, feeling a strange lightness, as if she were floating slightly above herself. Before she could think better of it, the words spilled out, "Will I ever know what happened to him? To Michael?" The silence that followed seemed to stretch for an eternity. When Madame Valeria finally spoke, her voice had changed, deeper, almost reverent. "The answers you seek are closer than you think. The walls between worlds grow thin. Be prepared, Emma Porter. When the call comes, do not be afraid to answer." A strange static filled the line, and Emma pulled the phone away from her ear with a wince. When she brought it back, the connection had cleared. "I'm sorry about that," Madame Valeria said, sounding normal again. "Sometimes the connection between realms can cause interference." Emma let out a nervous laugh. "Right. The connection between realms. Of course. You don't believe me," the psychic noted, not unkindly. "That's all right. But remember what I said. When the moment comes, be brave enough to answer." After they hung up, Emma paced her apartment, unsettled despite her skepticism. It was all theatrical nonsense, she told herself. Vague predictions that could mean anything. And yet. She called Jada immediately. "Your psychic is either a really good guesser or you told her about Michael." "I didn't tell her anything," Jada protested. "What did she say?" Emma recounted the conversation, including the bizarre static and the cryptic warning about a coming choice. "That's incredible," Jada breathed. "See? I told you she was the real deal." "Or she's very good at cold reading," Emma countered. "Either way, I've fulfilled my end of the bargain. No more psychics." Fine, Jada agreed. "Want to grab dinner tonight? That new Thai place opened on Newberry." Emma agreed, grateful for the distraction. By the time she met Jada for dinner, she'd almost convinced herself that the entire experience had been an elaborate parlor trick, nothing more. Almost. The next 2 days passed uneventfully. Emma threw herself into work, deliberately pushing thoughts of Madame Valeria's prediction from her mind. On the 3rd day after the reading, the day the psychic had said she would face a choice requiring courage, Emma woke with a sense of anticipation she couldn't shake. Nothing unusual happened at work. No life-altering decisions presented themselves. By the time she arrived home that evening, Emma felt both relieved and oddly disappointed. She'd known it was all nonsense, of course, but some small, secret part of her had hoped. She was heating up leftover Thai food when her phone rang. Unknown number. Emma hesitated, then answered. "Is this Emma Porter?" asked an unfamiliar female voice. "Yes, who's calling?" "My name is Dr. Ramirez. I'm a neurologist at Massachusetts General Hospital. I'm calling about a patient who was brought in yesterday." Emma's stomach tightened. "I'm sorry, but I think you have the wrong number. I don't have any family at Mass General." There was a pause. "The patient had your contact information in his wallet." "A Michael Collins? He listed you as his emergency contact." The microwave beeped, but Emma barely heard it. The room seemed to tilt sideways, and she gripped the counter for support. That's not possible," she whispered. "Michael Collins disappeared 15 years ago. I can assure you, Ms. Porter, there is a Michael Collins currently in our neurology ward. He was found unconscious in Cambridge yesterday. He's awake now, but there are complications." Emma's mind raced. It had to be a different Michael Collins. It couldn't possibly be him. "What kind of complications?" she heard herself ask. "I'd prefer not to discuss medical details over the phone. Would you be willing to come to the hospital? Even if you're not acquainted with this individual, perhaps you could help us identify him correctly." Yes. I can come now." After hanging up, Emma stood frozen in her kitchen, the forgotten Thai food growing cold. Madame Valeria's words echoed in her mind, "When the call comes, do not be afraid to answer." It was coincidence, she told herself as she grabbed her keys and purse. It had to be. And yet, as she drove to the hospital, her hands trembling on the steering wheel, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something larger than herself was unfolding, something that had been set in motion long ago. The hospital corridors seemed endless as a nurse led her to the neurology ward. Outside a private room, Dr. Ramirez was waiting, a tall woman with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair. "Ms. Porter? Thank you for coming so quickly." Emma nodded, unable to form words past the lump in her throat. "Before we go in, should prepare you," the doctor said gently. "Mr. Collins suffered a significant head trauma. He's stable, but he's experiencing some cognitive issues, primarily with his memory." "What kind of issues?" Emma managed. "He seems to have a condition called retrograde amnesia. He remembers his name and some basic facts about himself, but he's missing large chunks of his personal history." Dr. Ramirez hesitated. "Interestingly, he's been asking for someone named Emma since he regained consciousness." Emma's heart lurched. "Can I see him?" The doctor nodded and opened the door. The man in the hospital bed was both achingly familiar and utterly foreign. His dark hair was now streaked with premature gray, and fine lines had formed at the corners of his eyes. But those eyes, they were exactly as she remembered, deep brown with flecks of gold, now widening as they fixed on her. "Emma," he whispered, and the sound of her name in his voice, older, rougher, but unmistakably his, nearly brought her to her knees. "Michael." It wasn't a question. A smile broke across his face, then quickly faded to confusion. "You know me." Emma approached the bed slowly, as if he might vanish if she moved too quickly. "Yes. We knew each other. A long time ago. They told me I might not remember people from my past." His brow furrowed with concentration. "But I remember your name. I remember your face. Do you remember what happened?" Emma asked, barely trusting herself to speak. "Where you've been all this time?" Michael closed his eyes, lines of pain etching themselves deeper into his forehead. "It's all fragments. I remember leaving school. Feeling like I was suffocating. I needed to find something." He opened his eyes again, frustrated. "It doesn't make sense." "It's all right," Dr. Ramirez interjected gently. "Memory often returns gradually after trauma. Don't force it." Emma stood there, a storm of emotions raging inside her, shock, joy, anger, grief. 15 years of questions, and the man who held the answers couldn't remember. "I'll give you two some time," the doctor said, slipping out of the room. In the silence that followed, Emma studied the man before her. The boy she'd loved had become a stranger, and yet something in her recognized him beyond the physical changes, some essential quality that remained uniquely Michael. "They said I listed you as my emergency contact," Michael said finally. "Why would I do that if we haven't seen each other in years?" Emma shook her head, fighting back tears. "I don't know. I don't know anything anymore." Michael reached out his hand, hesitantly, as if unsure of his welcome. After a moment's hesitation, Emma took it. His fingers were warm, solid, real. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "I don't remember what I did, but I can see in your eyes that I hurt you somehow." The tears she'd been holding back finally spilled over. "You disappeared. No goodbye, no explanation. Just gone. I thought." She couldn't finish the sentence. "You thought I was dead," he completed for her. Emma nodded. Michael's grip on her hand tightened. "I wish I could tell you why. I wish I could remember." Emma wanted to pull away, to protect herself from the pain that was already seeping back into her carefully constructed life. But Madame Valeria's words returned to her, "Trust your heart, not your fear."